There we go.
All right, let's get it. Hey, good evening, everybody. Sir Knight Randall. It's just like I said a few minutes ago, we're gonna kick this off. I'm not gonna, hold up or, encroach on any more of your time. I'm just gonna introduce our speaker for the day. For the Pacific Prince Hall Grand Commander Knights Templars for the state of California, I would like to formally introduce to some and present to others our Grand Lecturer, Sir Knight Henry Osanao. So, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Once again, greetings, one and all. It's an honor to be here. Straight to the point. Today, we're going to be talking about the Order of the Poor Knights of the Temple of Solomon, also known as the Knights Templar. Next slide. So these are the things we're going to be discussing. The intro, which you just did, the origins, influence on Prince Hall affiliated Masonry. Principles, teachings, and the adaptation of Christian mythology into our order. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a proverb. A bridge that forgets its source would never reach its destination. What does that mean? Well, simple. A society or a group that forgets its traditions would never, ever, ever be able to reach its future potential, nor would it be able to face if, heaven forbid, the inevitability happens. So in other words, know who you are, understand who you are, and whenever you feel like you're lost, go back to your history, stay true to who you are. So today we'll be talking about Templar at large, Prince Hall, mini micro, but us, micro micro. Next slide. Okay, Knights Templar, founded circa 19 AD. So allegedly, 9 knights went and when saw the king. They wanted to form a order to protect Christians during the pilgrimage, and also protect the then known temple, which some will call Mount Moriah, others will call Mount Zion. Nonetheless, 9 men approached them, and eventually, when they were all finally knighted, there were 12. That's what the book tells us. Now, they are called poor knights. Why were they called poor knights? Well, one of the things they presented to the king was, we will put all our world possessions into a pile for the order, and we will be poor. And poor they were. Next slide. Now, I would like to tell you that the beginnings was easy, but it wasn't. It was rough. It was very, very rough. Uh, the battles going through the different terrains was pretty rough. Luckily, we didn't hit anything about the first 12, anything bad happening to them. But nonetheless, a lot of things. Eventually, they were able first to make it to the temple, establish themselves, and then were able to establish a route, right, for between Europe and the Holy Land. Now, with success comes more success. Once people, starts to hear about them, this particular order itself, people wanted to join. They at least of the sign. Well, in order to join, one, you have to profess your love of Christ, and two, you have to, okay, donate all your world possession into the order. So all these rich knighted men of their, communities, they joined in groves, and when they joined in droves, guess what they did? They put all their money, all their possession into it. So over time, they became huge. They became very, 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 very successful. Next slide. Now, in order for the order to be successful, it had to be ordered in a military manner. Now, the way it was structured, we have to understand that Hugh the Pains was actually a military man, a general, so to speak, in his own right. And then when he initially organized it, he organized it kind of military-ish. But eventually, the way he did it to where it was like a military order. So the Grand Commandery, if you're familiar with the military, would be like the be it regiment, division, or whatnot, so on and so forth. But he organized it in a military format. But while they were very militaristic, he also made sure that they were warrior monks. So they were warriors in the day. They knew how to fight, the best techniques, and so on and so forth, but they were also monks as well. Now, having been very, very, very successful doing what they did, doing all kind of great things for God and man, um, they became very wealthy. So much so that a lot of the monarchs of those days used to use them to help finance their campaigns and whatnot. And they had the Knights Templar did good. They did good because when you loan, you get interest back and so on and so forth. Also, they had a banking system, so you give me $100, I'll give $80 at the end. In any case, when it's also they got extremely extremely wealthy, and few of the monarchs borrowed money from him. One in particular, the one from France, borrowed huge sums of money, and another battle was up front. It was between the English and the Spaniards, so he had no money. He was going to try and ask the Knights Templar for some more money, and they were going to give it to him, but in his mind, he's already deep in debt with them, and he was like, okay, why ask for more money when I can actually take the money from him? So what did he do? He, with the Pope at that time, he was able to convince the Pope to come up with a crazy charge after long battles here and there between both and a lot of bribery. The Pope, finally declared them a bunch of heathens. Once the Pope declared a bunch of heathens, the King declared them heathens, and in 1307 they were arrested. Now, when they were arrested, during a court led by King Philip IV of France, they were called a bunch of heathens. And after a long, long, long sufferings and so on and so forth, in 1314, Jack de Molay, the then Grand Master, was killed. Now, it is said that when he was killed with the cross upside down, he was made to confess, confess his sins and profess his love for Christ, and allegedly stated that he was worshiping the devil. Truth is, he wasn't. He was under duress and he was trying to save the rest of his craft. Next crap. Next slide. We talked about this. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so introduction into Prince Hall Masonry. We all know about Prince Hall. They were born in the British West Indies. Um, um, Came to Boston when he was young. Was a revolutionary, abolitionist, and one of the most influential men in Boston. I say influential men in Boston. Uh, he was well regarded. He was very well respected. Allegedly, he was on a $2 bill. Neither here nor there, but he was a very well respected man in his community. What were some of the great things he did? Well, he had the first all black schools there in the Boston area. He helped establish a few historical black colleges. He did quite a few. Nonetheless, after all of his achievements, he died in December 4, 1807. Next slide. Okay, so we often hear about uh, Prince Hall. But what people don't know is there were a lot of people other than Prince Hall who were also just as influential during that time frame. One of such gentlemen is one I humbly and respectfully present to you. His name is Past Master Peter W. Ray. Now, Past Master Ray, right, served as a physician during the Civil War. He practiced medicine, and he was a pharmacist in Brooklyn. Uh, During the Civil War, he was actually part of President Lincoln's cabinet. Now, I say allegedly Prince Hall was on there because Prince Hall was allegedly the other second one. We don't have any record of it, but we have a record of him. He was huge, huge, uh, with the Underground Railroad. Definitely, huge anti-slave guys. He and Prince Hall were huge in freeing the blacks and sending them to Liberia. As a matter of fact, the country of Liberia today, and this country of Liberia today, the founders are actually slaves from the United States. They were freed. They went there. to establish a new America. The flag almost similar to ours, and I actually have family members on my mother's side that were there. Uh, on a side note, Liberia was the one with the American slaves that they sent back. Syria alone is the British slaves that were sent back. Now, why is he so important to us? Well, by virtue of him serving in the Union Army during the Civil War, a member of Lincoln's cabinet, a very prominent Republican at that time, he was very, 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 very well respected, both public and privately. He was also a very, very influential Freemason, one of the few that was also accepted in all circles, even more than Prince Hall, crazy as it sounds. Um, he was one of the gentlemen, illustrious past gentlemen, that saw to it that Prince Hall had his legitimacy in some way, shape, or form, but also he was one of the earliest members known to us that was previewed to the advanced degrees of Masonry. Now, the person of note on the bottom of the slide is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Moran, um, French by nature, got his charters from the King of France and the Prince of France. He was ordered to come to the United States and spread it to the known United States at that time, which is the West Indies. He brought all that he had, Steve Moore on the bottom, to Louisiana. Now, why Louisiana? At that time, we all know Louisiana was part of France. Somewhere in there, he and Dr. Ray got together, and Dr. Ray actually heard a lot about the Royal Select. But back then, the Royal Select was not New York Rite. The Royal Select back then was in the Scottish Rite, which is one of the degrees still to this day. Next slide. Past Grandmaster Davy Leary. Now, past Master Davy Leary would be so what Prince Hall is to Symbolic Lodge Masonry would be past Master Davy Leary. Also a very, very well respected person in Philadelphia, Freemasonry or not. Now, the record we have, as chartered by a gentleman from France, the Duke, shows that he was actually the first colored Freemason in the world to be conferred the 33rd degree. He was also heavily involved in establishing, by way of influence, the first Grand Commander, which we get to later. Next slide. So, Templarism and Prince Hall Masonry. The two gentlemen we just mentioned, well, three, if you were to add Prince Hall into it, as respected as they were the minority. The majority of people, still faced all the craziness of that period, racism and so on and so forth. So, established at Prince Hall, start from that because a lot of brothers want to join, they couldn't. So, hey, we have our own. We all know the history. Nonetheless, these gentlemen were the ones that helped, right, gain legitimacy with the mainstream, but also help push within the neighborhoods. Hey, we complain about what we're not having. Well, guess what? Let's have ours, but not just have ours. Let's have ours and be legit about it. And let's be legit about it by getting our knowledge, not from America, but from Europe. Next slide. Okay, so you can read these a little bit about, Prince Hall Masonry. Now, if you notice to the left of the slide are scriptures. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. You can imagine the crucibles of life that they went through in that time frame. And yet, through it all, through the love of Christ, they were able to accomplish all. Next slide. So, as you can read, the history of Prince Hall, 14 men, self-explanatory. The picture right there was taken in 1847. Now, I'm sure there were other pictures, but that was the only one that I saw from Library of Congress that took me closer to Prince Hall. Now, what's significant about this? Well, this was the very, very first time known in the history of the United States that Black people in period were allowed to hold a public parade on any street in any city in the United States. And it so happened that the very first one was this one, which is St. John. No, it wasn't St. John's Day, but and they were granted that day, obviously because they were Masons. Now we can read everything else about the charter, whatnot. Um, I used to think it was a fallacy, but I later found out it was true. The Boston Tea Party, the charter that we got from the King of England, um, found its way to the United States. And then when it got to the shores through Spy Network, they were trying to burn that charter. Luckily, one of our brothers, the White Masons, informed our brothers, and they went out there to save the charter. Hence the reason why charter is charred. So yes, we can actually say the Boston Tea Party allegedly was because of taxes. Maybe, maybe not. Behind the scenes, it was to burn our charter, which, by the way, Prince Hall Freemasonry is actually the longest legitimate lodge in the United States, the longest and oldest legitimate lodge, because we never, I mean, even though we didn't pay our taxes for a few, uh, when we recognized our charter was kind of reinstated. But if you go back to date history, we are the oldest and most legitimate masonry in the United States. Next slide. So, again, introduction of Knights Templar Degrees into Prince Hall. Um Next slide. Okay, so the gentleman we're going to talk about here is a gentleman by the name of Passy Benjamin, who was also a sailor from the West Indies. Now, he was a sailor from the West Indies. I read some book that actually said his father was a British sailor. His mother was a mixed British slash West Indies. During his youth, he went to England and he grew up in England. And while in England, he joined the mainstream masonry in England. At some point, being he became a sailor, became a trader. At some point, came to the Americas. When he came to the United States, he was shocked that he was not allowed in a regular nation. And the reason why he was shocked because he was a member of St. George's Lodge in England, which St. George's Lodge in England at that time was the main lodge named after the saints of England. Saint because he was killed. The Celtics killed him because he was a Christian. Nonetheless, he came. He helped establish a few Grand Lodges. Obviously, he was a past Grand Master. He reached back to England and said, "Hey, look, I remember there was this order where the knights did this ceremony, so on and so forth, and still within Mason. What's it called?" The Duke told him, "Hey, it's called, my Templar." Said, "Okay, would I be able to do one?" "Sure. You came to us, we trust you. Yes, we will grant you one." So guess what? They gave him a charter, and he established the first commandery in the United States. Hence the reason why this commandery is called the Mother Commandery of Prince Hall Masonry. And yes, they named it after the Saint of England, St. George. Now you see the cross. You can actually see the English flag, not the UK. So the Jack consists of three different flags: the English, the Scots, and the Irish. But the actual English flag, which is the Red Cross, that represents George, St. George. Anyway, next slide. So the next slide, looking through the pictures, that was the closest that I saw. Then we can actually say, yeah, this is fact. Every one of these gentlemen were all veterans of the Civil War. But not only were the veterans of the Civil War, what's ironic about this is these gentlemen were the first ones allowed, again, to have a public parade in Louisville, Kentucky. the very first one to have a public parade in Louisville, Kentucky. We found this photo, thank God. Next slide. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Prince Hall, him and his illustrious peers, they went through a lot. They went through a lot, and yet through it all, they kept true to who they are. They kept through the faith. They were the leads of their respective communities, and by God, thank God for them, because they weren't for men such as they, we won't be here today. Next slide. Okay. Now, we often talk about the square, the compass, the dots, and so on and so forth. But let's be honest, the symbolic, significance of masonry, be it York Rite, Scottish Rite, or Saban Lodge, Blue House. Well, to us, we gravitate to is more. Why? Because, we're charitable by nature. We're disciplined. We believe in service. We look after one another. We used to be very community based. A lot of us can remember when we were growing up, it takes a village to raise a child. A lot of us can remember when we walked down that road, every woman on that block was a mother. A lot of us remember when a family went into some kind of struggles, people put their things together to help them out. Well, all those, right, are in masonry. With the tools we provided in masonry, if we stay true to ourselves, we use the tools provided to us as a reminder, like, hey, this is who we are. But more importantly, I believe that our early brothers, and I respectfully offer rather, that our early brothers, the reason why they were able to go as far as they could during the struggles was because their faith in God, faith in community, but also, crazy as it sounds, faith in their brothers, fellow Mason brothers, although not publicly acknowledged, but behind the scenes, they were there to help out. Wilson, for example. Now, Wilson is said to be one of the most racist presidents we have had, which is true. But he was also a brother, and he did a lot for our community. Next slide. Okay, so ritual. As far as ritual is concerned, one of the beauties of Knights Templar is it is a very Christian, or it is a Christian organization. Everything is Christian based. So everything that we do within is akin to us growing up in church, us doing what we do at church growing up, right? Transfers over to what we do in our commanderies. Same mannerisms, same gestures, um, 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 everything. Hence the reason why, a lot of us also gravitate towards Knights Templarism. Next slide. These are some more about Knights Templarism in Prince Hall. Moral and ethical foundation, charitable traditions, sense of heritage and lineage, and structure. Next slide. Now, we often talk about Knights Templar, the most popular, the most well known, and so on and so forth. But there were other Templars during that time frame as well. Uh, Namely, the Knights Hospital. Next slide. The Knights Hospital. Now, believe it or not, the Knights Hospital are actually the oldest Templars known on record. Their job was to care for the sick. They also tried to protect the pilgrims during the day, but they weren't as successful. Why? Because they saw themselves more as monks and not warriors. They still exist today, and they are an invite-only organization, and perhaps one of the most more secretive order of all the Templars as of today. Next slide. The Teutonic Knights, right, composed strictly of Germans. And if you were to look at all the knights of those years and put them into the United States Department of Defense or military rather, uh, the Knights Templar would be like your special forces type crew, small, agile, yet lethal and great. The Teutonic Knights would be like the Marine Corps. These guys were fearless. They were fearless, and from their earliest beginnings all the way through the late 19th century, perhaps 20th century, we can say that they were the ones that stopped the spread of Islam to the Western Hemisphere. You can trace their lineage, their leader, to a particular king who financed them heavily and made sure they were good, and thank God for them. But we don't hear much about them. Now, I would say that there are some battles that they fought. There were some battles that they fought alongside the Templars against other groups. Next slide. Now, the Order of St. Lazarus. Now, the Order of St. Lazarus, who are they? They were known to focus solely on the leopards. But the funny thing is they were actually what we would call a joint command, so to speak. They consisted of Templars from every one of the other Templars. The reason why they were there together because each and every one of them were leopards. And back in those days, once you become a leopard, you're an outcast. Now, here are these, gentlemen, warriors, and so on and so forth. They come together not only as Templars, warriors, monks, but they cared for the leopards. Now, there are stories I could not put on a slide because I couldn't find something to back it up that the Knights Templars actually used them a lot. They used them a lot during the Crusades because these Templars that had leopards will form kind of like a flank and then or be the lead attack for a certain engagement. Now, the other side, seeing that the Templars coming at them are leopards, guess what they do? They run away. So they use them for a lot of things. Them, the Knights Templar using them for battle. Is that a good or bad thing? Well, who knows? It's battle. Nonetheless, they played a huge role in that time frame. And you can see the bottom, Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Next slide. Okay, lessons in today's world. Service and protection. That's what they did for us. We make good men better men. We are pillars of our community, and a lot of us do community service. Are we doing enough for our community? Perils of unchecked power and greed. I'll say it again. Parallels of unchecked power and greed. We see it in today's society, writ large or small. I would offer we meet on a level and depart on the square. Do we really meet on a level, depart on the square? Are we really, really true to who we are? Are we understand that we are fallible beings? Understand that we are fallible beings? Yes, yes, we're not perfect. But what are we doing as men, as Masons, as disciples of Christ, as warriors for Christ, as Templars? What are we doing within our respective communities in all ways, shape, or form to model the behavior of what our ancestors set for us? And during poverty deals, courage, loyalty, faith, men such as Prince Hall, okay, obviously one of the ones we know, Frederick Douglass, and so on and so forth. If they were weak, they would not have done what they did. Modern day, President Barack Obama, if he were weak, he would not have been able to achieve what he achieved and still endure what he endorsed today. Loyalty. Are we still loyal to ourselves? Are we still loyal to our community? Are we still loyal to the cause? Complexity of history. We often like to talk about the good side of history, But do we actually talk about the bad side of history as well? Do we go from the lessons learned from history that were bad? Integrity, integrity. I was raised, I'd rather you tell me the truth and watch me cry than lie to me and have me walk around like a happy fool. As leaders of our respective communities, do we actually practice this? Understanding that we are all fallible beings. For me, the only perfect person is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And yes, I make mistakes by the day, by the second, by the minute. I understand that. But are we, as men, as knights, are we standing true to who we are? We all know that the true mark of a leader is what is done when they're not seen. I often run away from people there in front of people that scream and yell when everybody's looking around giving orders. Well, it looks good and all. Truth is, what were you doing prior to that? With that, I respectfully offer that I am an eternal fellow craft. The Knights Templars of years past were eternal fellow crafts. When they were young, they did what they did. They got knighted initially, got paid the initial dues. They got to the temple, were able to grow larger. They became proficient at their craft. They got paid better dues. But yet, through it all, understanding how phenomenal they were, the special forces of that time, the leaders of that time, they remained humbled. The fellow crafts are the practitioners of the craft. Being a master means that I am over the petition of the craft. But how can you be a master of a craft if you're not proficient at your craft? And with that, I respectfully yield the floor, Black, to us family for any questions, if you have any. Next slide. Questions?
No questions. This is Brother Finney. Excellent conclusion, excellent lesson. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the words.
Thanks, sir.
Brothers, so nice and companions of life. Again, you know how we do it. I know it's been a little while, but we just do an open Q&A at this point. We have various brothers on here, some companions. Not everybody on here is a Sir Knight, and that's what's welcome. So by all means, ask the questions to our grand lecturer. I'll make a couple of points, just observations that I've seen and throughout the lecture, just to make reference to some things. But I'll yield to this august body to ask our grand lecturer questions.
Yeah, just feel free to unmute yourself and just ask the question.
Yeah, no raising your hands. This is open forum. I think you blew their socks off, man. They're so overwhelmed with information that they can't, unmute their mics and ask questions. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes to gather your thoughts, but let me just point out something to you because I'm gonna say this and be very transparent. I'm sick and tired of hearing Albert Pike being the father of Scottish Rite Masonry. I'm sick and tired of it. You can see the dates, right? Men lie, women lie, and numbers don't. Right, so if we see past most Western Grandmaster David Murray was elevated in 1820, Albert Pike wasn't made a Mason until 1850. Do I need to say any more? Do I need to say any more? That's a 30-year span.
Nothing at all, sir.
So
You were pulling the onions back.
let's dispel that rumor right now. I was having a conversation with a brother yesterday. He was in agreement with me, by the way. It's just I'm so morals and dogma, right, and all these other conspiracy theories that he has written. Just before I get my feelings, I'm just going to tell you that there's a 30-year span that dispels that rumor, and you just saw it play itself out in the most depicted way during this lecture. That was my 2 cents. I had to put that out there. But any other brothers have any questions? Again, great lecture. I told you guys this would be powerful. The Knights Templars has a great long history. And you can see that there were various orders of Knights Templars, Teutonic Knights, the Knights Hospitallers, and how they impacted the Crusades. As we think about those 5 significant periods of life, which equate to each of the Crusades, we think about how important the Knights Templar is in the grand scheme of not only York Rite Masonry, but our history, especially Prince Hall, and where we started in the 1800s, the first Grand Commandery, and then the mother Commandery, as is stated, St. George, and where we are today. And I'm so blessed to have been elected and to be able to serve as the right and the Grand Commander for this jurisdiction. Knowing the history, it just gives me goosebumps every time I think about where we came from, because we always ask brothers, from whence came you? And today you saw from whence we came, so which was awesome. So
It's kind of one of those things when you're in the chamber of reflection, and you have to do that self-reflection. You have to know yourself. That's kind of the full circle moment right there.
Yes, sir.
Most people or most brothers in the organization really don't realize there were people of color in Europe that represented these orders and degrees during the times where we were taught in our American system of education. They were not us. They were us too. Don't be fooled in some of the illustrations and descriptions. You see more of our, Anglo Sir Knights in there. There were Sir Knights of color, going back to our originator, Hugh de Payen. He was a Frenchman, a mulatto man, a man of color who started this order. And there's many brothers of color with him, many colors. So let's not just get relegated on whether he's white or black. There were many of us out over there too during those periods of times. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yes.
Even going back to our current Pope right now, he has ancestral lineage back to mulattoes. So another full circle moment here.
Well, his vernacular would say that he's a colored background. he's been chopping heads off, especially with J.D. Vance. But I digress.
So I have a question for for the Sir Knights on here. It's kind of a twofold question. The first part of it is what do you think the significance is of maintaining the heritage of the temple, of being a Knights Templar, for Prince Hall specifically, and then what does Prince Hall, or what does the Knights Temple represent to you specifically in Prince Hall? Why are you so drawn to it? I guess that's the twofold question.
Go ahead, Grand Lecturer.
Thank you for your question, Brother Milton. So let's get something established right now. There's a fallacy, a huge one out there, that our community or liberals or Democrats. To be honest, no. We are a very, very conservative community.
Right.
Very, very conservative community. Which is one of the reasons why we are drawn to Knights Templars. And our Asian brethren in the beginning, they all are Knights Templar. They were not initiated into the order, but they were Knights Templar. Why is it important for me? A man without faith, or an individual without a belief, to me, is a scary person. Knights Templar, right, is the only place where I can actually truly profess my faith. In other organizations they would belong to, I see the great architects, so on and so forth. Knights Templars is where I can profess my faith, be grounded, be one, be real. And that is why, for me, I believe, right, we need to keep hold on to that faith, hold on to the attributes, the totality of Knights Templarism in Prince Hall, period. And we need to reach down and grab our roots, our history, and not let go of it.
Appreciate that.
I'll jump in
May,
on
may
that.
I add a comment?
I'm gonna bounce off the back of that too. Just look at our societal norms. If you listen to the lecture very distinctively, he talked about the first banking system, and that's huge. As you go to the bank and withdraw money and put money in CDs and things of that nature, just think of from which they came. That came from the Knights Templars transporting and escorting and investing their own money to themselves. They got so big monetarily speaking that they were disbanded from a rumor. So just if you think about societal norms and how is that playing out today, and how did that play out in the '60s? Right? It hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the time and the date, but the societal norms are still the same. And it's almost indicative of the quote from Mr. James Baldwin. He said, the very paradox of education is this: as one becomes educated, one begins to examine the society in which he is educated. So if you think about that, just that statement alone, that is huge of what they established. They really mastered the game of chess. They were pivotal in our societal norms, but they don't get enough credit for their ability to contribute.
Dr. Randall, Dr. Randall or Grand Lecturer, is it possible to have this information compiled into an actual book?
I think so. I mean, we just wrote the book. We didn't include characters like David Leary, but the book that I sent will give a lot of historical accounts on stuff that you saw today.
Okay, great.
Yeah, definitely, especially beginning. I'm the historian of the group, so I always start the books out for the history of where we came from and the history of some of the degrees, which it'll include a lot of this information. But I will make this a PDF and send it out. I certainly can do that, and I have the notes to back it, so I can send those out as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Kind sir,
Hopefully you got my email, Mr. Finney, along with everybody else. I gave you the book for the reference that we talked about a couple months ago. I didn't forget. It just was been a lot going on.
I'm sure, and if not, I will. I'll make sure I get your email again before we log off.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Brother Harry.
Oh, thank you. Kind sir, I don't have a question. I have a comment, and here's my comment. I think this was a great presentation and went over a lot of historical information going backwards in time. And what I took from it that I find to be very interesting was, and I'm going to use this term, community service. Working within the community, helping people that needed support. I saw that side to it. Initially, I was under the impression with some of the analysis and research that I did that they was working supporting the Pope, but they never really went into any of the community service and in some of the work they was doing behind the scenes. And I find that to be interesting because some of that information was not presented. So I just wanted to make that point clear. And also too, some of the different facets of the Knights Templar I found to be very interesting. And you know what? It promoted a lot. It promotes a lot of interest in me, and perhaps one day in the near future, because I was thinking like, man, I will never be a Templar. I will never work for the Knights Templar. But after hearing this presentation and seeing some of the loyalty and how people were working and doing everything they could to even generate funds and do a financial system, that's amazing. So thank you. Great presentation.
More or less like the Knights Templar were the community organization of their times. They were the first security guards, first educators, first, like I said, spiritual advisors. There's many esoteric meanings you can attach just to that one emblem. And they said, in this sign, we will win, we will be victorious. There's many aspects of esotericism that can be related to that symbol. Like I said, it's the culmination of symbology. You start off with the symbolic lodge in the first 3 degrees, but the culmination is your Knights Templar orders.
That's right.
They are like the Sir Knights were respective master craftsmen of whatever profession they were. Like I said, you have military professionals who are good at, shooting a rifle. Then you have certain other professional military professionals good at being, during that time, a blacksmith.
That's right.
The masters of those crafts all band together to be Knights Templar. Kind of like what we do today. We have brothers who have various respective honorable professions, but we all come together as brothers on the symbolic level to do what? Work and agree best with one another. Eventually, you'll go through the degree system. You'll learn those values. You'll learn those virtues to make you that better man. The system of Freemasonry, especially with Prince Hall Freemasonry, is supposed to be designed to do that. It is up to us as Sir Knights to uphold those traditions, those morals, those values as we come up through these degrees.
Yeah.
That's what it means to me. That culmination of all of those virtues to be that not necessarily perfect man, but that man that's willing to give his life up just like Jesus did for us. So that's kind of what kind of wraps it up for me.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Brothers, we have a little bit more time, and again, this is just an open dialogue. As we, obviously, this has been recorded and it'll be uploaded to YouTube. You guys now have at your fingertips the entire series that you can go back and peer at, and that's an ode to these gentlemen behind the scenes, putting these lectures together and putting time into the research. You literally have the whole series from Royal Arch all the way to Knights Templars, and I think we're one of the few, I guess, orgs that have done that and put it out there publicly. So we wanted to be servant leaders in that regard. So brothers, you have a few more minutes. Please ask your questions, give your comments. Again, what you just got inundated with was a hell of a history lesson, is what you got inundated with, for better or lack of terms. We got a couple, key players on here, and we got some important people from our organization on here, and I'm sure they would love to have some input. So feel free.
Man, we left them speechless today.
Yeah, man, this is new. This is new. This is rare air for us. I mean, normally we have a lot of we'd be chatting it up right now.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen, brothers all.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Hey, I did have a question. I apologize. I dialed in a little bit late, doing a little babysitting over here on the East Coast, but just wanted to know, as far as the Knights Templar is concerned, since it's Christian based, is there a similar component for those of the Catholic faith?
So there's an order in Catholicism that is somewhat similar to Knights Templar. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an order within Catholicism that is eerily similar to Knights Templary, but it's different. And there was a fallacy that Knights Templars of years past used to work with the Pope. The truth is, they actually ran away as far away from him as possible because the popes back then were very, very, very corrupt. So to answer to your question, yes, there is an org, which I refuse to mention, that's part of them. Very eerily similar, but they're not the same.
I can address that too. Well, there was a papal bull out there that did address that did ban Catholics from joining the Knights Templar. I grew up in the Catholic faith. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and there's a big black Catholic community there. There are similar organizations that branch off of the chivalric side of Freemasonry that Catholicism does have. They're called the Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus.
Sort of akin to our Knights Templar. But for Prince Hall, for people of color, they are the Knights and Ladies of St. Peter Claver. My family grew up within that system too. So you join the military, I joined the Marine Corps, and then not a practicing Catholic, but when I went into Masonry, that was one of my concerns also. And then doing the further research, getting the knowledge for yourself, knowing that there is a papal bull out there that absolves that myth or mysticism of it, it kind of reassured me of what I was doing, and I'm good. The current pope, I think I want to say kind of addressed that as far as uh, Knights Templarism and the Catholic Church, but I haven't done that much research into reaffirming that claim. So
I think
So there was
we're
a
born.
message that came out about a month ago, I believe, that absolved Jack Demolay of all his crimes.
Yeah, and that's a it's a great thing. I can tell you guys just for your historical research on your own that Born in Blood will give you the historical aspect because Catholicism frowned on Freemasonry. I mean, it was literally frowned upon in the 14th century during the time of the Guild Masons. So Born in Blood is a good read to give you historical context, not only on Freemasonry, but Knights Templars order as well, and the parallelization between Knights Templar and symbolic lodge masonry to include symbolism of black and white and the all white gloves and things of that nature. So Born in Blood will kind of draw that picture out for you. But Catholicism, true Catholicism, frowns heavily, and especially back in those times on Freemasonry, a Masonry period. It was actually a crime.
yep, but we're good now.
All right, thanks, fellas. Appreciate the information.
Yes, sir, no problem. All right, brothers. Yeah, man. I tell all my students when I teach classes, like energy is cyclical, right? It's contagious, right? It is on a reciprocal course, and it's meant to be given to inspire. I have no energy right now. I need to put batteries in this thing today. Again, I don't think what you saw and what you heard, the impact of it may not be sinking in right now, right? What just happened was a conclusion to a hell of a series, number one. Number two, a hell of a history lesson. And for those aspiring to be Knights Templars, like Mr. Harris was talking about, how he looks at it differently now. That is the intent of these podcasts, of these series, is to get people to understand that it is more than meets the eye. Every degree has something that will give you like, I never knew that was there, and I never knew that that's what that meant. It's these aha moments that we have that just it's crazy. And as we do, you trust me, all the lecturers, myself included, have done our research. We have aha moments when we put these lectures together, and we give them to you. Like every aha moment, we've given them to you.
I learn aha moments every day. Every time I open up a ritual that, I've heard something or something just, I hear it and it just sparked my interest and it'll directly make me beeline to whatever ritual it is. And like, that's what that is. Aha. That's what that brother was talking about. That's what that meant. And it literally opens up a whole dialogue when you have these conversations with brothers on whatever topic, specifically with this one, Knights Templarism. So yeah.
Start breaking out that Zondervan, that Bible dictionary. You start getting that 1611 Bible. You're all over the place. Just going to historical accounts just to provide data, statistical data that's relevant. Just because credibility, we want to provide credible data.
That's a whole different rabbit hole when you start associating dates and people and the relativity of who we were in history in that time.
Yeah.
I highly encourage brothers to do that deep dive in their ancestral or their genealogy to find out who they were, who their people was. I'm on a current journey right now, discovering the Aboriginal tribes of Southwest Texas and Southeast Louisiana. They are tribes or native tribes that can be linked to the tribes of Israel culturally that we can associate with. So like I said, brothers and sisters that, want to deep dive into the history, you may be surprised with what you may dig up.
Mhm. And I'm gonna be honest, I may have mentioned it to Burley, and I can't remember if I did, but I'm gonna tell you guys something I've been thinking about since we've concluded our series, and this is just an open series for anybody to get on. We were actually thinking about trying to get a women's component and to get their series because their history is directly tied to ours through the York Rite, from Parents of Jericho to the Ladies of Circle Perfection to the Guild. It is directly tied to ours, especially in the Knights Templar with the Guild in 1146, how they helped in battle. They just don't get the credit that they deserve as well. So there's a lot of things that have been thought about in the background to continue to add to this series, just to make it more impactful and meaningful for not just you, for your sisters as well.
It's a great idea because they need that type of history to reaffirm their existence also, something for them to be proud in. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, brothers, if you don't have any other questions, we like to keep it at an hour. We're more than willing to go longer, more questions present, but today I don't think doesn't seem to be a bunch of questions. We'll leave the Zoom open. We'll stop the recording here shortly, but we'll leave the Zoom open just for a general conversation. But we definitely, as always, appreciate you guys. We will try to come back next month with something different now that we've concluded this series. I do have a lecture we can probably dive into about Tubal Cain, which we don't talk about enough in lodges. So that lecture is already created and has been presented one time already. So there's stuff that we can still build on, but feel free to hit me up if you would like to do a lecture as well. So other than that, we just. Brother, go ahead and stop the recording. For some reason, why?
All right.